All right. Well, hey, friends, Bart here. Thanks for joining up. I'm having another cloud chat with some trainers. Today, I'm really excited to keep dipping into the extended pool of trainers that I know from over the years, people I know really well, people I'm just kind of getting to know. Today, we're joined by Andrew Brown from ExamPro. Andrew, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm doing better than ever.
Well, so Andrew, maybe you could just give everybody a little background. I think a lot of our viewers might already know a little bit about you, but I'd love to hear about what you're doing with ExamPro and maybe your role right now in the cloud space.
Oh, I get to plug? Nice, I'm plugging. Okay,
plug
so hey everybody, this is Andrew from ExamPro, and I make AWS certification material to help you pass any of the AWS certification exams. All of my content is free to watch on free Code Camp. We also have a paid platform where we have a lot of layered learning on top of that free content. So if you need practice exams, you want Quizlets, even in that system, I have like a instructor bot powered by machine learning. And by that, I mean like it's if and else statements, but don't tell the investors. Not that I have any investors and I never plan on getting investment. You know, and even in the system, like I just added it so I can like message people and check in on their progress, being like, hey, are you studying right? So yeah, and I mean like I'm AWS obsessed, but you know, I've been doing a little bit more. You saw me, I did Oracle the other day, eh?
Yeah, how'd that go? That was just today even, right? And ongoing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm setting, for those who don't know, and this is going to be, no one's going to be able to take advantage of this by the time this video goes up, but Oracle is giving out free examinations, that doesn't sound right. If you take the exam, you can, for free, you can sit the exam. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I've followed it a little bit I've seen people posting around on there. So I'm curious, that's actually a really good start for what I was going to ask you about. You know, Oracle's been a lot of different things to a lot of different organizations over the years. And I'm curious, so looking at the certification role, for a vendor like Oracle to bring out cloud certifications and make them available for free, part of my question for you is, what is the role of certification for them? Is it a marketing thing? Is it really about knowledge? Is it about developing partner networks? I'm kind of curious, what do you think the role of certification really is in the broader IT space right now?
Well, let's talk about the motivation as to why Oracle made it free to allow you to sit your exams. Sure. I think that they're a smaller player. Like, to say Oracle's a smaller player is really bizarre because they're the second largest American technology company according to Wikipedia.
They have a massive footprint, definitely.
They're huge because of their Oracle servers, right? But the thing with Oracle is that they're really a newbie in the cloud space, having that infrastructure as a cloud platform. And I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah, so for Oracle, it's like their offerings compared to AWS is very, very insignificant. Before that, their exams used to be not role based, but they were like per service. Like every single service had a cert, which made no sense.
Sure.
And so what they've done is they followed suit with AWS and other providers like Azure, and they're like, oh, you want to be a solution architect. They just call it an architect, or you want to be a developer, or you want to be whatever. And I think that has better alignment in the market. I was just talking to one of our partnered companies, and we were looking at all the certifications across the board, Azure, GCP, and stuff like that. Yeah. And the way they were deciding in terms of what content they should produce was based on those roles. And so they would say, yeah, so Azure is great for machine learning because they have the AI engineer cert and the data science cert. And there's another ML cert, I can't remember what it's called, data engineer maybe. And then for GCP, it's like they have data engineer and like DevOps. They're like, yeah, DevOps is where you need to go for GCP, and machine learning is where you need to go for Azure, and AWS is for everything else. And so, but the way these decisions are being made is literally what is said on the cert, because you have all these CTOs. That's how they're going to decide, right? It's going to be how close is it one-to-one with the job description. And so I think it's important.
Yeah, and you know, for me, my first experiences with Oracle were always about the database. One of my first gigs that I had as a network administrator, we ran Oracle as kind of an embedded part of our system that we ran, and we did find ourselves mercilessly at, you know, under license scrutiny at one point, and it got crazy. It got like all the stories say. And none of us were certified at the time, and I certainly wasn't certified to run and administer the Oracle databases either. But I was thinking back to like the beginning of my career, and I got to say, I think the first tech job I got, they probably would have hired me without the certs that I had. And later on, I think the certs got more important for me because I started looking for more targeted positions. So like help desk, It was fine. They were like, whatever, we'll train you to fit the role. But as I moved into the specialty positions, I needed more certifications to demonstrate that I had the ability to do it. And I guess the second part was like, some of the folks that I was working with, they had accreditations that they had to maintain, which meant a certain number of their engineers had to have certification. So I'm wondering, do you think Oracle has some of that in mind? The same idea with like Azure and Google Cloud and some of them, like the partner network role?
Well, I'll give you a very practical example. So the reason I even knew Oracle had a cloud service provider was I'm in the Toronto CTO or CTO of Canada Slack, and in there is a VP of Oracle. And in there, a lot of the CTOs will offer I'm looking for these kind of hires and stuff like that. And the one from VP of Oracle said, does anyone know how to use Oracle, the cloud infrastructure? And I said, does it? I'm like, well, I know people who do AWS. I'm like, does Oracle have their own cloud provider? They're like, yeah, of course we do. But the thing she said was that it's not necessary to have knowledge. If they have applicable knowledge, it will transfer over. And certifications, it didn't matter to them. So the thing is that Oracle's so new to the game. If you do have the certs, I think that would be a good signal to say you're really aligned to their product. But right now, like, there's nobody that holds them, right? And that's probably one of the reasons why Oracle made their certs free, because they want to flood the market with certification holders. But right now, it's like you want to get a job, you just like, yeah, I have the applicable knowledge. And when you look at a lot of the certs, a lot of the knowledge is transferable, right? So I always think of AWS as the lingua franca of cloud knowledge. Really, it is.
Great one. Sure.
Well, because they have the broadest amount of services. They're the most well developed, right? So even if you want to be in Azure or GCP, I still think go AWS first because it's so transferable. It's insane.
Oh, absolutely. And I was just working on my cloud practitioner course and getting that wrapped up over at CBT Nuggets. And one of the opening things I talk about in there is like, why would we even worry about an AWS certification? What's the impact? And I always joke about it. Did AWS create cloud computing or something? And of course, that's silly. That's not what happened at all. But they did get the managed services piece right earlier before others did. And so I guess in that way, they set the trend and they set the bar. What was that word? Lingua franca?
I was saying like, yeah, they did. But I mean, I think the thing is that it's not that cloud services didn't exist before. It's just the lens or the terminology was put on it for us to really understand what it was. Right? Oh, yeah. Like all it is a collection of services. But it was at the point where they hit a threshold and now it's like, oh, we can define this cloud service provider. Right. But it took them many years, and I didn't like AWS for like over, 8-9 years. And then one day I just switched teams. So like the team I was on before was like, don't use AWS. Like use Linoid, use Linoid,
right.
Use DigitalOcean, right? Like, because my experience is different from yours. So like I'm from the startup world. I think you have 10 years on me or 7 years on me in your career. And you might have come maybe from a more enterprise or more developed environment. Whereas like for me, it's always been like no like on-premise knowledge, no networking, like complicated networking knowledge. We're a startup. We're just slamming technology together and we're trying to produce a result, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's kind of interesting because for me, I definitely came from, it was networking for me. It was Cisco networking is where my background really originally started. Got into telephony and things like that, but they were for big enterprises. So I'm curious, how does that work for you? Do you feel like you're missing parts of the networking piece? Are you able to easily supplement it?
I would say that it doesn't. I would say it doesn't matter. It depends on where you're working for, but at least in the space that I'm working in, even like mid-size startups that are like even fintechs. You either have people that are specialized in it or it's abstracted to the point where it doesn't even matter anymore. Like even when I started learning AWS, and I haven't been like doing AWS content for long, it's only been like 2 years. And it was like a hard switch. And my networking knowledge was like nothing. I couldn't even do like CIDR notation. I just had to get I wrote it down. I'm just like, okay, I just have to remember 10.0.0. 24 for my subnets, and then that means that I'm going to do 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and as long as they don't do anything else, I'm fine, right? Not that was a good way of cutting up your network, but I wouldn't say that networking is not valuable. It just depends on where you want to work, and what kind of job you want to work in, right?
Oh yeah.
If you're going for a larger company, then sure, I guess foundational knowledge in networking would be good. I'm learning a lot about networking just through your network because I think CBT Nuggets is known for networking. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, we really hang our hat on the Cisco world for quite a while now, yeah.
So I wouldn't say that it's not valuable, but I'm just saying that you can get along. The space is so large, you can get along without it, and there's roles that you can do there. I thought it was really cool that maybe they don't do it anymore, but I guess you can get like a bomber jacket, for one of the certs.
Oh, nice.
Maybe it was one of your like CBT Nuggets. Somebody wrote about it, but they're saying like for one of the second highest level certifications for Cisco is that if you pass it, you get a bomber jacket. But I think they stopped doing that. But the cert was like $10,000 to take. So you better get a bomber jacket. There's one cert I saw for Cisco. It's like Cisco architect something whatever architect, and there's only like 6 people in the world that have it.
Oh wow!
And most of them work at Cisco.
Yeah.
But I mean that's all I really know. Like I don't ask me much about networking. I don't. Even though I made a course on advanced networking for AWS.
Well, I think what you mentioned there kind of speaks to the beauty of the abstraction that cloud services really provide there. You should theoretically not have to know networking to do this, especially as you get closer to the things that you might call Tray cloud native, where they really are born and bred in the cloud. And you may be thinking more about APIs and data syntaxes and calls than you are thinking about actual packet delivery across IP-based networks, because if you're talking to the API, it's so far abstracted from what you really need to deal with that you can focus on your calls and your libraries and not really have to think about the delivery mechanisms to a large degree. And I think that cloud is extremely forgiving in that respect.
Well, I think getting started out, you don't have to know tons of networking, but down the road, you should tag it on. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some networking stuff with Cisco. I'll try something foundational. I don't know what the foundational cert is for Cisco. You want to tell me what it is?
Yeah, we can check it out.
Okay, I think it's like to get started, you don't need it. But yeah, it just also depends on how much money you want to make, right? So, sure. And what kind of work do you like doing? So.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I was just chatting DevOps with one of our new trainers the other day, and he kind of came to this thing and he's like, do people really use the CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment tools at AWS? He's like, I don't see anybody using code deploy. And I was like, well, I think what you're seeing there is the difference between cloud native or I have something to integrate that exists already. People who are already developing CI/CD pipelines with Jenkins and many of the other industry tools, they're probably not going to jump ship and go directly to the AWS managed services. But if you're a startup who is AWS native, yeah, then code deploy and code pipeline and many of those other tools are going to be a good fit. And I think there are definitely really big camps there. And as learners, we need to think about which of those camps we want to try to work in, because it really is a big divide amongst the types of jobs you're going to find in the IT space. I think that's kind of what you were echoing there as well.
I'm in the cloud native camp. I'm gonna stay in that one. I mean, yeah.
Hashtag serverless.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, serverless. There was a conference the other day for serverless days in Paris. Yeah. There's only 2 speakers, but one that was really cool. It showed like a graph about all the functions across the board for like who had the best cold starts and performance. So AWS had the best performance times, but for cold starts, I think they were 3rd, and the number 1 was Cloudflare. So Cloudflare has something called Cloudflare Workers. Oh wow! And like so they put their functions on the edge. So
you say Cloudflare?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
I know, right? So like, There's all these little up and coming ones. They don't have certs for it. Like a Twilio, they have a collection of cloud services, but they're more platform as a service. Sure. Or you look at Cloudflare, and they're starting to add additional service. Like they're adding like functions as well. And so I wonder how the landscape's going to change with these smaller competitors coming into the place where they're offering things you just cannot do. One big pain for Exam Pro is like we have a static marketing website, and it's deployed on CloudFront, and I'm just making sure it's the right name. When I'm thinking of many services, I get them mixed up.
That's the CDN, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I just like even the terms. So for Cloudflare, it takes about 5 minutes. Someone says like it just got down to 5 minutes. I swear it's 10 minutes. But it takes 5 minutes for it to propagate all your changes. But with Fastly, it's instantaneous, right? So the only reason I keep on using CloudFront is I got those sweet AWS credits. And there's some integrations that are really nice, but it's just like you have these third-party providers, and it's just like they can offer things that no other ones can. But the other issue with adopting them is the fact that it's like, can you roll them into your infrastructure as code? I don't think Fastly you can roll it easily into CloudFormation. So then it's like, do you have to use Terraform? Does it even work with Terraform? Sure. And so then you just have to decide: do you want to go wholly onto one platform, or do you want to use a mix of stuff? So I'm leaning towards just staying in AWS, even Unless there's a clear integration with those services, I'm just not going to touch them, which is unfortunate because AWS really doesn't like CrossCloud, or at least that's what it appears.
Well, I would agree largely, but then you look at things like EventBridge, which has cross-vendor API support, and you look at other things like CloudFormation's custom resources that you can build to. So, I mean, they're giving you hooks, but they're maybe not helping you use the others completely, not to the degree that they might have, or some chosen partners.
But what I'm saying, it's not truly easy to do cross-platform. So, yeah, there's some third parties they're partnered with, right?
Sure.
So, like, I don't know, like Jira tickets or something, or Datadog.
Salesforce, Datadog.
Only the people that are in like their top APN tier. But you know, like even though I love AWS, I do think it's good to be critical of them, and I do like to learn other providers so that we can make sure the space stays competitive. Because I think friendly competition benefits everybody, right?
Oh man, that's a great topic. Let's hold that just one more sec because I wanted to mention the community aspect of it. When I got started in IT, there were really two tracks that I looked at. It was either CompTIA, and I did the A+ and Net Plus real early on. And then it was all the Cisco certifications. But I think what grew out of that is that Cisco created a culture of certified individuals who were supporting one another and engaging each other. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the community side of it? Do you think certifications help with that, or is it more the building of the actual forums and the network and maybe the TechNet elements like what Cisco has? What do you think? Is it just the certifications that'll get that done, or they need to take a more holistic approach to facilitating the community?
So who's gonna drive community? Is it going to be certifications, or is it going to be the platform?
Yeah,
I think they both contribute to those. But so like certifications really make people have a drive to have some kind of goal, right? If I made a course that was on AWS and there was no certification at the end of it, nobody would take it, and I already know because I tried that. And so that's a lot of the reasons why I make like people think that I'm trying to help people get AWS certified. I'm trying to help people upgrade their skills. I'm trying to help people change their attitudes in terms of like people want to get a job, but I want people to think less selfishly and how to take that technology and help everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
And so I believe that certification is part of that goal to do that. The other side is the platform itself. Like if you ever use Reddit is anonymous. And so like you don't have to confirm your identity, and it's extremely hostile environment where like one of my friends, and she's a very, very good content creator. Like she was on there and they were so critical and so abusive. She like removed half her articles online. And then I told her, I was getting lots of abuse there. So after she heard it, like I was getting battered around as well, that she put her articles back online. So the platform really matters, but also certifications matter. So they both play a role. Twitter is a lot more friendly. I'm like wearing the Dev shirt right now. I have like a shirt for everything. Like Dev's a great community. Yeah. Hashnode is a good upcoming community. Free Code Camp is a good community. And so I think those two things in hand are going to make a big difference.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I guess for me too, like over the years training with a whole bunch of different companies and different classrooms and different environments there, it was often missing some of the community parts of it. And unless I tried to create that in class and get it to follow after the sessions were over, it would make these little bubbles of experience instead of creating a web of things that you could continue to grow and, feed off of over time. And I guess that's kind of what I was wondering there too. Yeah, that's good details. Now, one of the things that I really loved about chatting with Andrew, and this is for our friends at home, is that Andrew is, of course, working in kind of in the free training space right now. And so I got to say, Andrew, I am constantly overwhelmed by how much training content there is out there. I mean, you have pay vendors, you have Amazon providing their own training, you have Azure and Google, they all provide their own training. You have projects like Free Code Camp, which are collaborative efforts by many, many individuals that are all kind of pulled together in a great offering. And as a trainer, I'm kind of like, what am I supposed to do? Is there room for us all? Is it good to have this many options? Who's really benefiting from the massive diversity of it? And are we going to run out of learners? Andrew, are we running out of learners?
Well, I don't think we're running out of learners. I don't think we're running out of instructors. Like, I make AWS content. You make AWS content. Mine's free. Yours, you have some free content out there as well. But it really comes down to, like think of a personal trainer, for, if you want Arnold Schwarzenegger as your trainer, you have Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you want, I can't think of any other people that can pump you up, but like, everybody needs somebody else, or, there's also Hero in the community. Like she's really newbie friendly. My style is extremely fast and loose. And I try not to cover too much in detail. So everybody has their own methodology of learning. And you look at other markets like Korea, there's nobody in Korea, right? Someone goes over there, they translate it over there, and now they're an instructor there. So I don't think that there's a lack of room. There are some bigger players that have taken up a larger part of the market, but I do believe that there's a lot of interest into breaking up those monopolies in this space. And so there's a better distribution. And also, I always just think like you just have to push yourself into a new space, right? So like, let's say I made all the exams free, right? Does that mean you're out of work? Does that mean everyone else is out of work? No, it just means that you have to monetize something else. Maybe that is study groups, right? Maybe that is one-to-one coaching. Maybe that is like validation. And the only people that are afraid of free content are the people that, they don't want to like try or do anything after that. But by pushing free content, we're going to help everybody, and people are going to be paying for the real value. Because to me, content's great, but like you can watch a video and not get a good result because your study habits are bad or et cetera like that. So,
that's a good point.
But I mean, that's my motivation for making free content. Is create friendly competition.
Yeah, and the kind of what precipitated this was honestly, I was at reInvent last November, whatever that was, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Feels like it. And I met some other trainers, and at first I was like, oh, hey, because I was excited because I recognized them. And then I was like, oh, wait, competitors, are we frenemies, or how does this work? And I quickly threw that out because I was like, no, I want to meet these. These are my peers. And so I guess it was weird for me to try to like navigate that at first. And these are folks from some of the big providers that we didn't exactly mention, but after getting to talk to them, I was really glad I took the time to do it. And it humanized them in a way that made me feel a lot better about being a peer of theirs, even though we might have competing businesses that we work for. So I also appreciate your time on this because that's helped me.
I mean, the way I look at it is that if like when you have other competitors in your space, you have to say, well, are they going to leave the space? They're never going to leave the space. So when you accept that and you realize that, then it makes it a lot easier to be less combative. Like you can be competitive, but to be less combative, to be less hostile. I'm a terrible competitor because I love to share. And so like if tomorrow it's like you want to go take an exam, I'll be like, hey, I'll be like, hey, do you want to use my Oracle practice exam questions? I'll just like give them to you. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you.
And so for me, it's just I guess it comes down to the attitude of other people in the space. But I think if we want to have this more positive space, we just have to find people that have the same kind of mindset and raise them up. Unfortunately, a lot of times when these spaces are created, a lot of the people that monopolize it are hostile initially. And so it makes it really hard to get us to a more healthier space. But I think we can all be friendly. Why not?
So I think what I'm hearing here too is that as long as we have a diverse set of information to be taught and a diverse set of learners to learn it, then we're always going to need a diverse set of trainers and training content to meet the many different needs that they're going to have across whatever the spectrum looks like there.
Well, and AWS won't stop making services. So like, it's like you just can't keep up with it, right? You pick your angle, right? Mine might be more security focused than yours. I put so much security in all mine because I love security.
That's important.
But you just have to decide, what is it that is your angle, and if you have enough to feed your family, then motivation after that is like if more money. Like my motivation is not to make more money beyond my base living, right? So like the only problem is with people that want a lot of money, and if that is not your motivation, then everyone's fine.
Yeah, you get a ton of people constantly asking, what's the most lucrative position that I could get myself into? I'm like, I just don't think of success in terms of how much money I make. I just don't think that way. And I also recognize that I'm kind of privileged looking back on it now because I'm in a position. But I still try to encourage individuals because I just see so much unhappiness in the IT space, like with where they are, where they're not getting to, or the employer relationship part of it. And my heart just goes out to people like that. And it's part of what makes me want to be a trainer because this is a tool that we can give them to hopefully go and enact something that's useful for themselves. But I do always have a hard time shaking off the most money searching model of it. But I'm not sure what to tell people when they ask me that, other than say, oh, okay, well, I think that you can be lucrative in a lot of different places, but I think you're going to be happier if you find something that speaks to your interests in an organization that's doing work that you care about in some way on the larger scale of things. You could choose a lot of people to work for.
I think what we need to do is dangle the carrot in front of people saying, yeah, you can make a lot of money here. And then when we get in the doors, then we reprogram them. And so we get them on to say, like, look at all the good you can do with this knowledge. Like, you know what I mean? Because
Sure.
at the end of the day, it's like that little white lie is enough to get people in the door. And then, we can help them really understand, this is, beyond money, it's not going to make you happy in the end of the day. Imagine, like, one thing I always say is, like, if we were less greedy, we could all have high-speed internet from satellites anywhere in the world right now. Right? It's like, you think of large telecom companies, and it's like, we could all have super high speed internet, but they're gating that because they they make money, right? And it doesn't make sense to offer that at a more cost effective price. And so the idea is that we need to change people's attitudes. And a lot of times people it's where they're coming from. It's a big world, right? Some people have it a lot harder than others. So they're, there's the triangle of needs, right? So people's needs are different. And so, once they go beyond that selfish model, it's just making sure, like, once they get their needs, understanding, like, how to align for the next thing and not be so motivated by making money. But I mean,
Sure.
I'm a big fan of Star Trek, so we don't care for money. So.
That's right. I really appreciate you bringing up the just the free angle here for me. I've gotten into volunteering quite a bit the later years here, the longer that I work in this space, and the more I'm interested in giving back to the community, because I feel like I'm in a position where I can, and so I feel kind of blessed to have an opportunity to do stuff like that. So teaching at school, speaking at conventions, especially if it's something where we can help someone who's maybe not had a voice come out. So I think you were mentioning earlier on about some of the diversity inclusion stuff that you've maybe. Is there anything that you wanted to mention along those fronts?
Like, there was one course I want to make, and nobody likes the name of it, but it's called AWS for Moms. And the reason why is I want to make that course is because my twin sister, she was working for as a custodian. She has like 3 kids, and she was working as a custodian part-time. She lost her job because of COVID. And she wanted to help me out with Exam Pro, and then I just showed her, like, oh yeah, there's all this cloud stuff, and she wasn't aware that there was even any kind of application that she could do that would be useful. And she's helping me, like, make my content, and I have branded her as a cloud developer advocate, and she's doing a really good job of it. But the thing is that she didn't even know that those opportunities were available, but she had the skill set. Right, so that is like one thing I'd like to do. The other thing is the Women of AWS conference. Recently, Women of React made a conference, and it was a really good conference. And I think Nader had made a tweet, and
I remember seeing that.
He said, look at this awesome conference, right? And I said, why can't AWS have one as well? And actually, I made that tweet because I was a little bit angry, because I've been to Reinforce and other ones, and AWS has they have like WePowerTech and these other things about being inclusive and trying to include more people into cloud. But when you go to the conferences, it's 99% people that look like me. And I love meeting people that look like me, but I like meeting other people as well. Yeah. And there's that high price tag. Like, who can afford $1,000, $2,000 to go to that conference? And so, wouldn't it be awesome if we had a conference for AWS? It was for women. It's all women speakers, right? So
That's
we can
fantastic.
balance that books on there. And it's really weird to say, like, for me to be co-organized. And by the way, I'm co-organizing that with Marcia. So she works at AWS.
Okay.
But I think it's like her own time putting it in there. And her motivations might be a bit different than mine, but, like, I just think that it's a good opportunity to try to balance that books. Now, is it the most inclusive as it could be? I don't know. There's a lot of different groups, but I think my attitude is, like, you should try to do something than doing nothing, right? So some people might say, well, you're not including WIMX plus. What about people that are disabled? What about people? And you can go down the list, right?
Sure.
And I believe that we do need to make better efforts, but the thing is that it's something is better than nothing, right? And all you can do is say, if you aren't inclusive enough, you can apologize and reiterate on the next approach. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I live here in a small town here in North Carolina, in Asheville. And for a town of only about 80,000 people here, we have an incredibly eclectic mix of interests. And we also have kind of this like resort feel where people are coming here for vacation. They own vacation homes here. And that puts people on that puts us on the crossroads. So we have people who are influencers in other parts of the country that are coming here and still kind of experiencing some of them. We have like startups and think tanks happening here as well, even though we're not really a tech hub. There's a quality of life here that attracts people to come and live in this area. So that's given me an opportunity to seek out smaller AWS and cloud style startups that have interesting angles. I was working with a provider that builds insurance software for helping manage insurance submissions for small businesses. So this is an organization that's doing worthwhile work, I think, because a lot of doctors and different facility providers like that, they struggle with that model and keeping up with the insurance company. So for them to create a tool that's democratically available for them that makes that interaction easier, this was something that I felt was worthwhile to throw my time at it, even though I took that gig for less than what I probably could have taken for. It had other interests. I know this is an Asheville-owned company, and it's a company that's going to do good work for small businesses in a large enterprise-oriented world. So I really appreciate the opportunity to take our skills and apply them in really selective ways like this. And I really appreciate, Andrew, just personally, taking the time to consider those angles and go that direction. Because I think the more that we see those trends, the more that you and I get on these calls and spread those ripples out, I think the more that we're going to see it happening. People are listening. And I think that they're starting to react to it. So
I think it's just lead by example, right? And if there's a person that's saying go hustle out there, make a lot of money, that's what the culture is going to be. If you have people going to say go out there and make a difference with these kind of efforts, do that. One thing I was doing before COVID was I called it the innovative initiative, where I was offering training, in-depth training for any remote or smaller place outside of a tech hub. Something I would charge like thousands of dollars for in Toronto. I would do it for considerably less.
Ooh, yeah.
And the idea was to try to change attitudes in more smaller towns. Like my hometown's 100,000 people, right? No different where you're living.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that they can't be adopting cloud and creating more remote opportunities or better cost of living. I live in Toronto or the GTA, and it's extremely expensive. I can't even afford a house. So that's the issue, right? So I stay in the tech hub to try to bring that knowledge back. I might never be able to afford a house down here, but it'd be nice to see if other people can have a better opportunities remote, and they don't have to come to Toronto or Vancouver or whichever large tech hub, right? So.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And I guess when people come to talk to me about getting jobs and looking for jobs, one of the first things I ask them is, where are you able to work, and what kind of location restrictions do you have? Are you willing to relocate? And I think a lot of people getting into the industry should consider that option, especially if you're in a satellite area that could go to a larger city. Often you could jump into those positions and then come back out of it. It might take you a 6 to 9 month or 1 year transformational period to go through, but if you have that opportunity, it really can play big into your advantage. And later on, you might be able to have a lot more leverage over where you take your own experience. And I think that's a lot of what people are looking for. They might not realize it.
I originally wanted to work for AWS. I wanted to be a developer advocate or a technical evangelist. And today I still even get hey, why don't you apply for these jobs? And the reason I don't is because I've gone through their process enough where they're like, great, can you move to Seattle? Can you move to here? I'm like, there's an office in Toronto, and for whatever reason, it's just a company that is global is asking me to move to far out weird places for a role that would be probably public online facing, or the roles that are global are really limited. So they're like, do you want to be a developer advocate in Amplify? I'm like, well, I like Amplify, but I don't want to do it day in and day out. Do you know what I mean? Why don't you put me somewhere where I'm strong in? And so even for me, it's like you see all the content I make. It's hard for me to even get a job at AWS. And even if I still had the interest, and at this point, I just don't. But we have to change those attitudes. We have to teach the big corps to do that, and you have to do that however you can, right? So because I think people want to work remote.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess one of the things that I kind of wanted to go back to kind of start wrapping this up a little bit is the cultural implications of using technology are really important right now. We are at I mean, I guess we're continually at crossroads, but it feels like an even bigger precipice than ever before with the way that we invest and spend our time and efforts. At reInvent, I was really interested in looking for examples of tech organizations or people within the AWS sphere who were doing that good work and using tools like AWS to help solve those problems. And so I was pleased to see that, Warner and and Andy Jassy, these guys were talking about some of those efforts that are going on, like global mapping using the sailboat technology and IoT tools, things that really scientists can benefit from right now to help enact the next set of realizations for us. And I guess that's one of the things I really try to encourage learners to think about here is that, yeah, you can get jobs, but there's also companies out there that need your help to effectively change the world and implement new innovative tools that we haven't even envisioned yet. And I think that's possibly the most exciting area for me to kind of get in, and just kind of really breeding that culture of innovation and aligning tools with the right people and the right skills to make those things happen. And that's part of what I'm passionate about.
I think one really good technology that people could build, just as an idea for anybody, and this is something I want to build out, it's like, imagine a pinball machine and you hooked it up with IoT devices to AWS. That would change the world. That would change the world. That would solve all our problems. So that's one of my when if people keep on buying my my AWS certification content, then I want to go build a pinball machine that's powered by IoT devices. So I don't know, wouldn't it be fun? So
I think that's a super fun idea.
But yeah, it's just there's a lot of opportunities, and I think a lot of people underestimate, like a lot of people that aren't originally from tech and coming from different industries and switching over, they have an unfair advantage over people in tech. Like I've been doing this for, I don't know, 13, 14 years, and I built 40, 50 web applications, and like production grade web applications. And the thing the thing that I noticed, like the only reason I haven't become a millionaire in that time period is not because I couldn't build anything or anything that anybody asked me, is that I don't have the domain knowledge to really understand that industry. So if you want to build a real estate one, you have to have that real estate knowledge. If you want to work in insurance, you have to know that stuff. But whatever your knowledge that you have, you just bring it into the cloud. And even with basic cloud knowledge, you could be crushing it in your industry. You could be crushing it, right?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I think a lot of people too, when they think of, people constantly say they want to get into the cloud and they're talking about getting into the cloud. But I think the most important thing to recognize is that apps don't get created because technology needed them. They're created to solve human business problems. And you're right. I think that's a great sentiment that people coming from non-technical spaces are closer to the human and business side of the problems, and that gives them insights that are really powerful, and it could make them an excellent solutions architect, a great developers advocate, or a product manager or a user experience manager. There's a whole bunch of interesting new realms of tech that I know when I was in college years ago, they weren't talking about user experience designers. They weren't talking about developer advocacy, because those are cool roles, and I probably would have looked into some of that. But at the time, it was like network operations, systems operations. Those are your things you can get into. Oh, and you could be a developer. Those are like the three things that I remember being in my course catalog as I was kind of looking through it. But yeah, no. So yeah,
I tell people they're already in the cloud. I'm like, you're using Google Drive? Oh, you're already in the cloud. Do you have iCloud? Are you syncing your family photos? You're already in the cloud. Just keep running with it.
You're doing it,
right? I don't know. Just tell people they're already in it. They'll stick with it. But yeah, there's just a lot of opportunities. Like one thing that always impresses people is that with Amazon, with AWS, they have a service called Amazon Connect. And with the press of a button, you can have your own virtual call center. You could start recording calls and then having them transcribed, and you can set up a pipeline.
Get SageMaker talking to them.
Or SageMaker, right? Or maybe like your team, you want to set up a Minecraft server, right? That's something that people will not leave me alone about. They're like, because I made like 2 articles on Medium, like when I first was getting started, and I said there was 5 more to come, and people are like, where's the rest? Or we have like a video presentation where we just holistically talk about how to set it up, and they're like, show us all the steps. So like every week someone's asking me that. So I have to finish that darn Minecraft course. Maybe I'll call it like AWS for teens. I don't know. So I was trying to think of like a sharp message, you know?
Yeah, get that sharp messaging. That's important.
It's all about that sharp message, though. But you know, I think the most important thing is Bart. If you were an AWS cloud service, which one would you be?
Oh man, what would I be? What would I be? You know, I have always been in the telephony space. That's where I've been almost my whole career. So I would probably pick things like Amazon Connect or SageMaker, some of those tools that allow me to interact with the voice piece. I just think there's something really fundamental about voice communication. And I think it's an important aspect of it, especially as we dehumanize so many interactions that we have on a regular basis. So I kind of like that idea of being able to facilitate those voice conversations. I like to think of myself as a facilitator of conversations as often as possible.
I'd be Beanstalk.
Beanstalk.
I'm Elastic Beanstalk. Yeah, I'm Elastic Beanstalk. I'm tall and lengthy, and I can build apps really quick and fast and dirty. So,
dude, Beanstalk is, I think it's still one of their most successful products to date, even though it's not that exciting when you look at all of the other stuff that's out there, but it just fits a great niche. I like Andrew Brown.
I like how AWS advertises it as like a production, like not for production use, but they're just talking about like the largest of enterprises. Like imagine like the largest enterprise you can think of, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna put all our workloads on Beanstalk, right? So like that's why that's there, right? So that
Totally.
Some big I can't think of any big companies right now. Odeo.
Capital One.
Odeo is still around, right?
Yeah.
Remember Odeo? The company before Twitter. So before Twitter, it was called. They had like a podcasting thing called Odeo, and podcasting was never going to get anywhere. So they rolled that down. They made some Mickey Mouse app called Twitter. So
yeah, I've heard of some of that one there.
But
well, Andrew, dude, I really appreciate you chatting with us today, man. I had a good time, and I hope that we can carry on our conversations in the future and maybe do some live stream events together at some point. And I really appreciate your time.
Have a dance off?
Dude, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Bring up some jams.